and it was for a German music group called Claptone,
Mm-hmm.
and the name of the video is Heartbeat by Claptone, and it's had over, I think, upwards toward 1.4 million hits on YouTube. And it was a very interesting project, and there's so many, I lose track of them, essentially. It's like, well, so many guys my age are looking back at what they did in their professional life, their younger life. I'm sort of in the middle of a new life now, and I'm looking forward to what's happening next week, next day, next month, next year.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps me young. I work with young people all the time, and young in LA means actually a lot of people I work for are in their 20s and 30s, and they call me sir, which is kind of
it shows respect, which is good. So,
I suppose so. It's just refreshing. I'm from Texas, where we always use sir and ma'am with people, and it's. But I think outside of Texas, you don't use those terms unless the person's a lot older than you.
mm-hmm.
It's. But that's kind of funny. I enjoyed it. It's great. I've got a lot of new friends and a totally different life.
It sounds like you're having a great time. And what are some of your projects you've been involved in? Some of the things we haven't touched in our last interview, and what are some of the upcoming ones? And from what I understand, that you've got several in the works right now, and just keep going and going and going and going. It's almost like never ending, which is a good thing.
It never ends. And I auditioned for a Western in January, and I didn't hear from them, so I assumed they wanted somebody else. And then they emailed me and said, "Oh, we like you for this part, and but you can work on your southern accent and bring up the energy a little bit, so it'd be more like Walter Brennan or Gabby Hayes." I said, "Okay." Then it turns out they thought I was someone else. They wanted somebody older than me.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "You're too young for this part, so we're going to try to get you something else." But I'm very amused by that, because I'm probably older than the guy they want for it. I just look young. That's the problem. That's choosing your genes before you're born is it's something you got to do, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Right. And of course, we can get to more of that as well, too. And you're listening to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. Also on Facebook at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen to the episodes on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and also watch the interview on YouTube as well. We're here with Samuel Robert Whitehill, the longtime lawyer who's been pursuing a lifelong dream of acting. He's been over 300 projects within a few years and continues to tack on several more. And I think we just about lost count. But the biggest project to date, and he is rolling in the deep, and it's not with Adele. This has won quite a few awards at the Film Fest in L.A., and it's currently, airing on, quite a few outlets. Last year was a big hit, especially on Black History Month, and it's also very appropriate. And, of course, it's a very powerful story about a black serviceman from the armed forces that gets treated pretty badly at a restaurant just because he's black. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your story, and what part do you play in Rolling the Deep?
Okay, in Rolling the Deep, it's based on a true story that took place in South Carolina in 1945. I'm the owner and manager of a diner in South Carolina, and in those days there was segregation, Jim Crow, and outside the diner there's a sign that said "whites only" with a big exclamation point. And the movie opens with this young black soldier. He's an officer walking into the diner, and the waitress there says, "I'm sorry, we can't serve you." And I come out and we try to get rid of him, and it turns out that he has a story to tell, and he tells us the story, and that tweaks our interest. Then some things happen in the diner. Some things happened to the soldier's father who had served in World War One. His father had actually been lynched on the way to a meeting of his fellow soldiers from the Great War, and that is the basis of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Why he walks into an all white diner, and what happened, how he changes our lives when we meet him, and how he handles himself. And so very, very, there's certain parts of that film when I see it, my eyes tear up, and I'm not the kind of person who cries very often, but certain emotional energy in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the filmmaker is named Marcellus Cox. He's been making films for about 5, 6, 7 years, and he made one just recently that's in the festival circuit called "I'm Sorry,"
Mm-hmm.
about a young man who's been convicted of various crimes, and he has to turn himself in, but he fails to turn himself in the day he's supposed to do it. Instead, he kidnaps his younger brother, and the movie is entirely, for the most part, in a safe house where the older brother is talking to his younger brother and trying to get him to straighten his own life out. And it's extremely moving film. The acting is great. Everything about it is great. And it's also winning prizes. I'm not in it. It's an all-black cast. Most of Marcellus's movies deal with black experience in America in various forms. And he is working, though, on a feature, which I hope to be able to participate in next year.
Mm-hmm.
Later this year, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Now, with being in that film as well, too, with Rolling in the Deep, did it enhance your a belief about what's happening with the blacks and segregation and everything? Or
well, I grew up in that world in Texas in the 1950s, before they had the civil rights legislation, and I witnessed it, and it was the norm. It was, believe it or not, the norm of the day.
mm-hmm.
Looking back, it's a way of sort of doing penance for having participated in that kind of society.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the receiving end, I guess, of that, or I would say it was the short-term benefits were long-term hurt for everybody. It hurt the economy, it hurt people, it destroyed people's lives. And I think young people need to see this kind of film to see what was really going on then.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like a way back. It's like you're trying to teach the people that this happened in 1945, not happening now. So what they need to do is just read their history books. And do you think it's what's going on? Do you think the racism is still present, or you think it's improving in today's society?
Well, I think things are a lot better now than they were when I was growing up. I see it from the non-black perspective, but I remember how people spoke and how people thought back then, and I don't think, for the most part, people think or talk that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When they do, it's considered so outrageous that they're taken to task right away.
Mm-hmm.
But it exists, and there's prejudice, and there's I have run in sometime with people I grew up with in Texas about this, and they don't use the same language they used to use, but some of the attitudes are so obvious,
mm-hmm.
especially among the older people my age. But young people, I don't know. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm. And do you think this also happens as well too with other races, or with other genders and age
sure.
and other factors, especially religion too?
Oh, I think so. I know it to be so, and there's anti-Semitism, there's prejudice against gay people, there's all kinds of things that human beings, we're all the same species, but we find so many excuses to not deal with each other in a humanistic way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes perfect.
Really,
That makes perfect.
yeah.
That makes perfect sense too. And what are some other films that are involved with Black History Month, and what are the projects that you're involved with as well?
Well, I had the good fortune last summer of working in I guess it's like a TV movie. It's not quite as long as a feature film, but it's not a short film. It's called The Flight of the Sparrow, about a young girl growing up in Georgia in the early 1950s. And I play the guy who sort of owns the town. I'm a lawyer and live in a very nice house, and I'm also running a bootlegging business.
Mm-hmm.
And my main partner in this bootlegging business is a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people who I hire don't want to take orders from a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of force it on them. I force it on them, and it's so I'm not exactly as totally prejudiced as the man in the in Rolling in the Deep, but
Mm-hmm.
I am part of the structure of Southern society in that day.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there were business partners who black and white business partners. My own grandfather had a factory in New York City, and he hired a young man in the 1920s and noticed that he hired him to just do work around the office, sweeping and stuff. It turned out that my grandfather noticed he was really, really sharp man, and the young man became a vice president of his company. My grandfather was the president of.
Nice.
So yeah, I didn't even know it. I talked to the man's son, who's an 80-some-year-old retired physics professor, and hope to meet him someday soon.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like that you should be able to, as soon as you get this out here. And of course, we're rolling in the deep. And were you approached to be part of this film, or did you choose to audition? And how'd you get involved with Rolling in the Deep? I forgot to ask you that earlier.
Okay, what I usually do, I subscribe to several websites for actors. They're called breakdown services.
Mm-hmm.
And you subscribe, you have your profile, and I got a notice in the email that there was this film being made, and they wanted some people that fit my profile. So I auditioned for it, and sometimes you can go to the studio and audition in front of the filmmaker or the casting director, or sometimes you can make your own tape of it. You just hold your phone up to your face and speak the words into the phone,
Mm-hmm.
into the camera, and that's what I did for this one. And we spoke, and he said, "Yeah, I'd like you to do it a little different way." So I did that, and so he eventually hired me for it. And I was really fortunate because it filmed on a Friday morning in Anaheim, and I'm Jewish and I don't work on the Sabbath, which the Jewish Sabbath starts at Friday sundown
Mm-hmm.
till Saturday. And Marcellus went out of his way to make sure that my scenes were done in the early part of the day so I could get home in time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, not only is he a great filmmaker, he's a great person.
Yeah, it sounds like it too. And Rolling in the Deep. And where can people watch this movie?
Well, then it should be released soon. It's on a syndicated, the second year of syndication on a show called African American Short Films. And that shows on ABC, CBS, and Fox stations locally around the country at certain dates. And what you need to do, and what I can do, is actually let you know when it will show in your area.
Okay.
So it's showing from January through April, and every week it's in a new location.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're looking forward to that as well, too. You're listening to Mike Wagner Show, powered by SonicWebStudios.com. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303